A biochemist, Michael Morbius, tries to cure himself of a rare blood disease. But when his experiment goes wrong, he inadvertently infects himself with a form of vampire. If you're joining us for the first time, this is the N Word for Nerd podcast. We are focused exclusively on blurred content. And if you don't want to know what a blurred is, it's me, a black nerd. Blerd. See how easy that is? It's great. All right. We have a very cool show for you today. We are going to be reviewing Morbius. Wow. My one sentence review for this is Sony, please stop. Think of the children and stop. This sentence is a lot more exciting than the movie. It's it's terrible. Let's get into it. Um, this movie probably would have been better, if this came out in like the '90s when we didn't really give a shit about superhero movies as much. Because no one, and me including, as a super huge, comic book superhero nerd, cares about Morbius. I do not give a shit about this character whatsoever. And it seems it's just a cynical class grab from Sony, who are trying to make movies off of the Spider-Man universe without actually having Spider-Man in it, to just so they can, pad their pockets a little bit more rather than, I don't know, making good content. This movie is the bottom of the barrel. It's let's start off with some of the things that are good about it, okay? Jared Harris, he's in it. He's always really good at stuff. I don't know why I guess he's broke because I don't know why he chose to do this movie, but he's always a solid figure to watch. Matthew Smith as Milo he is a pretty good villain. He is a lot better in this than Woody Harrelson is as Carnage in the Carnage video. He's a lot more menacing, a lot more. He looks, at least he seems to be the only person that's having fun in this whole entire movie. The rest of this movie is just dreck. It's terrible. Um, some of the things that I did not really like here. Firstly, you can kind of go by the nitpicky things of like science. Vampire bats aren't really all that dangerous to people or anything that matter. They don't kill. They're not apex predators. They don't kill stuff. They're barely nuisances to the things that they do feed off of. So when you're gonna splice your DNA with vampire bats, you're not gonna become this super killer, awesome creature. You're gonna become this like pretty anemic, flying rat. And you can nitpick the way that he has sometimes ability to fly and sometimes he doesn't. Like bats are active flyers, so if he's getting bat powers, he should be able to like fly on his own, I guess, or not turn into shadows. I don't know where any of these things come from, but that's just usually superhero bullshit, and you can kind of hand wash yourself of that because it's bullshit. But there is not really a story here that basically that Michael Morbius didn't do to himself. You start off with these two, I guess they're orphans. I guess one of them not orphans in this hospital in Greece, even though neither of them are Greek. I don't know why they chose Greece to be their hospital they live in, but that's neither here nor there. Um, the Matthew Smith character and the Jared Leto character know each other because they both are suffering from the same blood disease. And Matthew Smith's character moves into this hospital in Greece, and immediately, Morbius just decides to call him by the name of the other dead kids that have gone through that particular hospital, and names him Milo. And every single human being decides to call this child, whose name is not Milo, Milo. And it's supposed to be this enduring, nickname, but like, no, it's the nickname of the dead kids that he's given the dead kids that's passed through this hospital. And it's kind of sad and morbid. And I hate it. And it doesn't make sense why they thought this was a good idea to include this in the movie. Um, then Michael Morbius goes on to become a world famous scientist, and with Milo, the character of Milo, bankrolling his research into trying to cure their blood disease. He helps children and does research at the same time, which is pretty impressive for a doctor. But he's doing illegal experiments, and he finally has an experiment he can do, but he needs to do it, off the books and off U.S. soil. So they hire a boat, and he does the experiment on himself. But then he kills like most of the people on the boat, and it's like, ugh. It's like these people, they're mercenaries, and like one mercenary seems to be a dick, but still he does not deserve to die kind of dickish. And like he slaughters them all. I don't know why they had guns there in the first place or why they were there in the first place, other than for the plot said that they need to be mercenaries there. And then like the rest of the cops and things just decide that this is okay for this to happen. It's like, oh, we don't really care about a whole bunch of mercenaries dying on this boat. It's just the way things are. They're scumbags. It's like, no, these people were like there because you wanted them to be there. Like they were hired by your friend to protect you and you killed them all. And that doesn't make any damn sense. And you're supposed to be the hero of this piece. I'm like, this is not the way to start your movie off. And then there's some more bullshit. They have Tyrese and Al Madrigal are these cops who are trying to investigate these murders that are happening in New York City, and they are just like the blandest, two most boringest, two most ineffectual cops. In I mean, like other than real life cops, obviously. No offense, I'm sorry. This is just me being a black guy, but usually when you have Tyrese in a movie, he is the comic relief. He is, a very boisterous person. He's very definitely, even if you don't like his acting because he doesn't really act, he just goes there and says, stereotypical lines. He at least brings some levity to it. And Alan Madrigal is a comedian. And yet they're just there. They're just just straight cops. Like both of them are playing the straight man in this. And they're not playing off each other and they're not adding any sort of like jokes or any sort of levity to the proceedings. They're just literally just being cops and they're being bad cops. Because when the murders happen on the boat and Morbius jumps off the boat, not being there, they just automatically assume that Michael Morbius, this famous Nobel Prize winning uh, person with disabilities, is the murderer. They just automatically assume it like from jump that he is the bad guy. And you're just like, oh yeah, he's definitely the bad, especially when Milo, I don't think this is a spoiler alert because this is about the movie. When Milo starts, becoming the villain of the piece, and more on that later, and starts committing murders, they're just like, oh yeah, it's definitely Michael Morbius. He's the only person who's doing this, even though there is only evidence they ever have of him actually being on the boat. It's this one tiny origami thing, and his best friend slash doctor assistant is also was found on that boat unconscious. So it was like, yeah, he was definitely here. It's like, no, I don't know how you conclude that, other than that someone radioed in, but it could have been anybody that radioed in, before they died. You don't know. That's called investigating things. But I guess the most egregious part about this is the fact that the primary antagonist, which is played by Milo, whose name is not Milo, it's Lucian, but they call him Milo for no goddamn good reason, just becomes a bad guy. Like for no reason whatsoever. He gets, Morbius injects himself with the virus or the serum that turns into a vampire, and then Milo being his benefactor comes and sees him suffering because he's trying not to drink blood. He's locked himself in this room and he's dying, and he writes in his own blood on the window of the room he needs blood, and Milo gets him the blood and he drinks it and he's like, yo, when can I get with this? This looks great. This looks awesome. Like I wanted to be a part of this because I don't want to die, which is a good, thought. I mean, I don't want to die either, but like you see your friend here, like literally like a monster on the ground. You're like, yes, I want to be a part of this. This seems fun. But he's like, yo, you don't want to do this. It's like we can work this out a little bit longer. This is not the cure that I promised you. Blah 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 blah. He's like, okay, cool, whatever. And he does it anyway. And then because he does it anyway, he's like, yeah, I'm a bad guy now. I'm just gonna murder random people, kill them. There's no reason. I was never shown to be a bad person in the first place. There's one scene in the beginning of the movie where, as a small child, who with disabilities, he goes to try to get a letter that has flown out the window from some local Greek street toughs, and the street tough starts picking on him, and he in a moment of rage he hits one of the street toughs with his cane and hits him and knocks him out. And then Dr. Jared Harris comes in and runs all the other kids, and he's like still mad, and he hits the poor knocked out kid a couple of more times. But that's not really like any indication that he's going to be a psychopath later. It's just like that's an understandable situation. Like, yo, give me my letter back. No, we're gonna beat you up. Ah, I'm mad, and he hits him. And there's no other indication that he's going to be a crazy person later on. and it is completely ridiculous. Like this whole thing is just like the two of them like just fighting and killing people, and like he's not being a superhero at all, and it's all a bunch of dumb bullshit, and I hated it every single second of it. And I'm going to go into spoilers here, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I mean, I spoiled most of this already, but there are really cool after credit scenes that, because course superhero movies need after credit scenes, whether they make sense to the story or not. But if you don't want to be spoiled this, I will give you the next few seconds to fuck off and do something else in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So there's after credit scenes where they bring in, and it's absolutely has nothing to do with the plot. It makes no sense whatsoever to the story, to the universe, to anything. Uh, all of a sudden, Adrian Toomes from the Spider-Man Homecoming is sucked into the universe of Morbius, right? And they're like, "Oh, this guy isn't a bad guy. We don't know why he's here, so we're gonna let him out of prison." And then after that, Agent Team somehow has his complete vulture get up, even though he's in this new universe that has none of the same technology as the last universe that he's actually from. And he flies out to Morbius and is like, you know what? We should team up because I bet this guy Spider Man has some of the reason why I'm doing it here. And Morbius is like, yeah, what? It doesn't make any sense. Morbius has no idea who Spider Man is. He doesn't. Nothing that Morbius has gone through was because of Spider Man, and he has no reason to even care why Adrian Toomes is here or what he needs to do or whatever. And yet he's like, yeah, this sounds like a great idea because we need to set up sequels. We need to set up the Synergist Six for whatever reason, even though this is not going to be good because Sony needs to stop doing this. Like they need to not try to do the Avengers with Spider-Man villains. I mean, yeah, they are the second best group of villains next to Batman, but I don't want to just see a fucking. I mean, I probably would see a movie about just the Penguin. I think that would be pretty cool, but that's because Batman villains have shades of gray to them and like layers, whereas this is like a 13-year-old fever dream of what Morbius should be about, and it's pretty damn terrible. Don't get me wrong, you 13-year-olds out there might enjoy this. You might think this is the greatest movie ever. I don't know. I mean, maybe if you have severe, brain trauma, you might like this. Maybe not. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be ableist, but I made that joke anyway. But this is just not it. This is like they need to stop doing this. Venom, both the Venoms are lackluster. This is beyond lackluster. The reason we care for these characters is because they're adjacent to Spider-Man and seeing them, come in conflict with Spider-Man. And if you're not going to have the reason why these characters even exist in the movie, then you don't need to make the movie at all. It's I don't want movies like this. This is not anything that I mean, maybe there's people out there who's like, "Yes, give me all the villains and I don't want to see, another Spider-Man movie ever again." And they can just deal with and like this, mediocre dreck that we're getting. And that's fine, I guess. But like for me as a fan of comic books, as a fan of superheroes, as a person that, you have a built-in audience because you have the ability to create this content. I like the next time they release one of these movies, I don't want to see it. And the only reason I saw this one is because I'm doing this right here, talking to you guys. So if only I can get there's a way for me to see these movies for free, that'd be great. Because I'm wasting my money on this, and I don't want you to waste your money on this either. So my final rating for this is a 1 out of 5. Avoid it as possible. It's not even worth watching it when it comes on streaming. It's just not worth it because there's nothing here. It does not add to the lore of the Spider-Man Spider Universe without Spider-Man. It doesn't add to anything. It's not good because at least if it was good, it could stand on its own and just be like there. But it's not good. So yeah, just completely skip this movie. It's not worth your time, your energy, your effort, or your money. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you for today. That short, sweet, just like my penis. Just a little bit of content for you. All right. Well, Thank you guys so very much for letting me ramble on and on and on and on and on and on today. I appreciate your patronage, and please, this is my final words. Be kind, be considerate, and tip your servers and bartenders at least 20%, if not more, if you can afford it. So, thank you guys once again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.